Today, I'm going to be talking about climate and the climate crisis. A little while ago, I took a training, an online training with the Climate Reality Project, which is a outgrowth of Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. And so this presentation was developed by the Climate Reality Project, and only with a couple of modifications. I'm just going to share it with you. The Climate Reality Project is focused on education and advocacy about the climate crisis. And an estimated 3,000 people are going to be making a presentation like the one that I am doing today over the next day or so, as they have a 24 hours of climate awareness going on. So we will record this, and it will be broadcast on our YouTube channel as of 2 o'clock on Saturday and thereafter. So I'm just going to get started here with the presentation, and we'll walk our way through it. So this is the first picture of the Earth fully illuminated that any of us ever saw. It was taken on the last of the Apollo missions, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. Looking at this picture, a blue marble photo taken from Apollo 17 reminds us that we are all connected and that our actions have an impact on the planet. There are only 3 questions about the climate crisis that we need to answer. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? So let's start with the first question. Must we change? Well, the scientific community around the world has been telling us for a long time that yes, we certainly must change. And now Mother Earth is telling us directly. The sky is not the vast, limitless expanse, the way it appears when we stand on the ground and look up. In reality, the sky is just a thin shell of atmosphere surrounding the planet. But we are putting 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into that atmosphere every single day. That pollution, especially carbon dioxide, CO2, is building up and trapping heat. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the science of global warming, which you probably already know. It's been understood by scientists since the 1800s. Energy from the sun comes to the Earth in the form of light. Energy is absorbed by the Earth and warms it. Some of that energy is re-radiated from the Earth in the form of heat. Some of the outgoing heat is trapped by the atmosphere, which is a good thing. It's kept our planet at a stable temperature. Now, however, we've been thickening the atmosphere by filling it with heat-trapping pollution. More heat energy is trapped, and that is warming our planet at an unprecedented rate. There are many sources of human-caused global warming pollution: agricultural practices, forest burning, transportation, and many other factors. But the main source and the cause of the rising global temperatures that we're seeing today is the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels provide more than 80% of the world's energy. Fossil fuel use and emissions have gone up dramatically since World War II. In the last few years, there was a brief leveling off as the world adopted more and more clean energy solutions, but then there was a recent spike in global warming pollution. As a result of this pollution being trapped in the atmosphere, global temperatures have risen dramatically. 19 of the 20 hottest years ever measured by instruments have occurred since 2001. The hottest of all years, 2016. Heat itself is a problem in many parts of the world and in many parts of this country. Heat affects not only people, but animals, crops, and our weather. On a global basis, more than 90% of all the extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into the oceans. This heat makes the ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. Half the increase in global ocean heat content has occurred in less than 20 years. Hurricane Florence produced record-setting rainfall across portions of North and South Carolina when it made landfall in the morning of September 14th, 2018, near Wrightsville Beach in North Carolina. And of course, this weekend, we're recognizing the onslaught of Hurricane Delta, yet another hurricane in this hurricane-packed season. The extra heat disrupts the water cycle. The amount of water vapor that evaporates off the oceans increases as the oceans warm. And that water vapor is carried over the land, and it often falls in much bigger precipitation events. When the land can't absorb all the water that falls in these larger storms and downpours, then we see floods and mudslides. Extreme precipitation events have produced more rain and become more common since the 1950s in many regions around the world, including much of the US. Extreme precipitation events lead to record flooding, which has been occurring all over the world. Sometimes people wonder how global warming can be blamed for causing both precipitation and flooding and more drought. The extra heat trapped by rising levels of greenhouse gases actually leads to both. And as the climate changes, precipitation patterns also change, leaving some places with less rainfall than before. Changing precipitation patterns can lead to drought and water shortages. Southern Brazil, for example, suffered a devastating drought in 2015 and 2016. Higher temperatures also have a direct effect on the incidence and severity of wildfires. Here we can see that the number of large fires corresponds closely to the years with higher spring and summer temperatures. In 2016, this fire in the heart of the Canadian tar sands region destroyed large parts of the city of Fort McMurray, Alberta, and forced the evacuation of over 100,000 people. And of course, we had terrible, terrible wildfires across the West this year. Our governor, Jay Inslee, calls them climate fires. The number of climate-related extreme weather events has been going up worldwide. The insurance industry keeps track and tells us that. The last 2 years rank among the top 10 most expensive for overall disaster losses. Over $160 billion in losses in 2018 and $140 billion in 2019. The fire that destroyed Paradise actually occurred in November. So even though it seems as though we should be getting out of the fire season is lengthening. This photo is of a glacier in southwest Greenland, shot in the summer of 1935. And then the second photo here, the same glacier, which had almost completely melted by 2013 due to rising temperatures. NASA has precisely measured the decline in the mass of ice in both Greenland and Antarctica, and all this extra melting is causing rising sea levels worldwide. This flooding occurred in Miami Beach, Florida, on a sunny day with no rain. High tides now regularly flood the streets of Miami Beach, as well as in several other coastal cities around the world. This situation will only get worse as sea levels continue to rise. Miami is the #1 city at risk in terms of assets at risk, along with Guangzhou, China, New York, Newark, and others. Then we look at the cities that are at risk by population, and we see many huge cities in developing countries are very much in danger. If these cities become uninhabitable, where will the people who live there now go? The Department of Defense in the United States has long warned about refugee crises connected to the climate crisis, as well as pandemic diseases, water shortages, and food shortages. Heat stress is now beginning to decrease crop yields from rice, corn, and soybeans. Exposure to higher levels of carbon dioxide also decreases the nutrient content of the single crops that we grow, like rice, wheat, and soy. Infectious diseases, heat stress, air pollution, and waterborne diseases are all influenced by a changing climate, and unfortunately not in our favor. Warmer temperatures have had an impact on the spread of tropical diseases. Modern transportation and air travel play a part, but the potential range for many diseases expands as regions farther and farther poleward get warmer. This means there are more and more places where a disease like Zika can take root. The main mosquito that spreads Zika and dengue and yellow fever is now covering a wider range in our warmer, wetter world. In warmer temperatures, the virus incubates faster and mosquitoes breed more, and they're able to transmit the disease longer. The health impacts of the climate crisis are often overlooked, but the health impacts will affect millions of people. Climate change, along with other factors such as ecosystem loss, is contributing to the worst extinction event since the extinction of the dinosaurs, which was 65 million years ago. All of these threats, including many we haven't even covered here, and the fact that the World Economic Forum says climate change is the #1 threat to global economy, help answer the question, must we change? Yes, we must change. So we definitely have to do so. But what about the second question? Can we change? The answer to this question is actually very exciting and positive. We've got the solutions available to us now. Look, for example, at renewable energy. Wind energy was predicted to provide 30 gigawatts of electricity by 2010. By 2019, we'd exceeded that prediction 22 times over. Global wind energy capacity is being built. Look at this exponential curve in front of us here. Wind energy could supply 40 times more electricity than the entire world currently uses. Solar energy is an even more dramatic story. The best projection 18 years ago was that we would install 1 gigawatt of solar energy capacity by the year 2010. Actually, we did that by 17 times. And then by 2019, we exceeded the goal by 121 times. Even more dramatically than wind, we see an exponential curve in the amount of solar energy that is currently being installed in the world. Just as we have seen with other technologies, such as computer chips and cell phones, solar costs have fallen dramatically. In some regions, solar energy is less than half the cost of electricity from burning coal. In many countries where there's no universal electricity grid, we're seeing consumers and businesses leapfrog old technologies and install solar panels in places that have long been denied access to any electrical power. Chile is a true solar success story thanks to its policy decisions. The solar market took off slowly, but look at what's happening now. At the end of 2018, Chile had 2.3 gigawatts of installed solar and has an additional 16.67 gigawatts of solar projects approved and under construction. There are many regions in the world where this kind of growth and development are possible. Every hour, the Earth gets as much energy from the sun as we need to run the entire global economy for the year. If we can increase the fraction of this energy that we harvest and use, we can make a lot of progress towards solving the climate crisis and helping local economies at the same time. Battery storage is an essential part of the green energy revolution. Batteries allow us to store excess solar or wind energy and use it during those times the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Batteries are also critical for the electrical vehicle market. In 2016, the global cumulative storage capacity approached 3 gigawatts, which was almost 2 times the storage capacity seen in 2011. As storage technologies get more efficient and cheaper, the market is quickly growing. Global cumulative storage capacity is expected to reach over 900 gigawatts in 2040. Within the next 8 years, highly efficient LED lights are predicted to take over the market. Energy efficient technologies like LEDs save people money and help reduce emissions by cutting down on the amount of electricity we use. All of these auto manufacturers are now offering or preparing to offer electric vehicles, another part of the sustainability revolution. So, can we change? Clearly, the answer is yes. Will we change? Well, that's the final question. And there is exciting news. In December of 2015, the Paris climate negotiations took place, and every nation in the world agreed to phase down greenhouse gas pollution to zero net emissions as early as the second half of this century. Climate action isn't just about what countries do. We all have to take the lead on climate. Not only the countries, corporations, states, provinces, and cities commit to reducing their emissions. We're seeing marches and demonstrations and demands at the ballot box for changes necessary to solve this crisis. And here on Bainbridge Island, we're looking at a draft climate action plan. If you look at the letter today from the manager of the city of Bainbridge Island, the Climate Action Advisory Committee has just this week presented a draft climate action plan to the Bainbridge Island City Council. And it involves three key areas: mitigation, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2045 compared to 2014 levels, with interim milestones of 25% reduction by 2025 and 60% by 2035. Adaptation. Climate is an issue that we're going to need to deal with, and the city believes that Bainbridge Island can be climate savvy and withstand the impacts of climate change. And third, community engagement. The city of Bainbridge Island inspires community action and partners with local and regional organizations to take meaningful and equitable climate change mitigation and adaptation actions. There are elements of the upcoming 21-22 budget that involve Climate Action Plan, CAP. And you can read about it on the city's website and reach out to the city council to encourage them to make sure to keep those elements in the budget. Join those who are using their voices and their votes and their choices to fight the climate crisis. You can use your voice, your vote, your choices, and speak truth to power like the world depends on it, because the world does depend on it. You can also learn more by taking time to see the latest edition of the Inconvenient Truth, an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, and there is a version of the book as well. So thank you very much. I hope that you learned a little something there and reinforced maybe something else that you already knew.
Thank you, Reed.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I love our current governor. He wrote a book called Apollo's Fire.
Yes.
About this exact thing. And how long ago did he write that book? Wonderful book. And it's nice that we have leadership at our state level to addressing this. So
yeah, I think it was probably 8 years ago maybe that book came out.
Yes.
So I don't know if any of you were aware of the climate action plan that's part of the Bainbridge proposals, but I think that's a good thing, and obviously we'd love to see those numbers sped up a little bit. There's no time to waste as we recognize the kind of changes we're seeing with wildfires and hurricanes and flooding. The island would definitely be affected, will be affected, I guess I should say, by higher sea levels. We're going to see a lot of waterfront areas and estuaries that are going to be inundated by salt water. But
I have a question, and this, I want to talk about the larger picture like you're doing it, Reed. But I have a picture. I have that one picture of the hurricane or the cloud with the water coming down.
yeah.
I really would like to know where that is and what that is, and so on. That's the most amazing picture I've ever seen in my life.
So that's a thing called a supercell storm. It's a column of rain at its center, and it happened in Glasgow, Montana. That picture was taken in 2010, July of 2010.
Wow.
So we're seeing that not at that sort of dramatic way here, but we are seeing more rain when we get rain events. it seems like I feel like we get more sort of Midwest storms here in what used to be Drizzle Central.
Mhm.
Yeah, we get tornadoes here, for crying out loud. We never had them here before.
So, you know, and I think that another sort of positive on this is that increasingly the general population is aware of the fact that we need to do something, and these the awareness that there are things we can do will help us move forward in a way that that maybe we felt like it was something that was outside of our power before.
Thank you, Reed.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I just, you know, I've been following this from a distance for a number of years, and I didn't realize how much the information has been consolidated into a format that makes it really impactful, I think, and easier to understand, and also more hopeful. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think, and I think that it's significant that over this weekend, the goal is to have 3,000 people doing what we just did, which is go through this material or something like it. And one of the major efforts of the Climate Reality Project is to encourage on a local level these kinds of discussions so that it can change the way that we vote and the way that we speak up in our cities and towns, or make decisions about things like whether we're going to, when we go to buy a car, are we going to buy an internal combustion engine, or are we going to consider switching to batteries? We just last Friday, right, had a wonderful conversation with Pac Westy, building electric vehicles, or taking the gasoline powered vehicles and turning them into electric vehicles right here on Bainbridge Island. Not only cars, but buses and VW buses and equipment for shipping groceries and so forth. So it's happening, and we can just, you know, put our pedal to the metal a little bit. So,
Agreed.
So thanks for listening to this, and I am happy if you know of somebody who might like to hear this, to give this presentation again.
Very good.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Reed. I wanted to say just for a second that about 10 years ago, I listened to Al Gore live in Seattle and discussed climate change, and I'm just wondering how active is he? Still as active as he used to be? And
Definitely. This organization is the culmination of a couple of his groups, and it's been going for about a decade, I think. Started with a meeting in his barn, and in the past, what they've done is meet in conventions around the world. But because of the pandemic, this year they held two virtual meetings, which I think were able to train a lot more people, and frankly use a lot less energy to get us all there, which was wonderful. And so we have thousands of people around the world who have just been given this training. I did it over the course of a week. It was a couple of long weekends and then some activities during the week. I was able to squeeze it in, and he gave this presentation in a 2-hour version over 3 days, with lots more slides and much more detail. But yeah, he is definitely very much involved in this.
Well, he's brilliant, number one, eloquent speaker, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed your presentation very much, and we'll look into it more closely.
Yeah, it's called the Climate Reality Project, and they have a website, and I'll put a link in the video about that.
Good, I appreciate that, and thanks for your good work. I appreciate that.
Thank you, and I think that it's something that the Senior Center can also look at as we look at things going forward. You know, should we look at replacing the bus, or working with somebody like Pac Westy to turn it into an electric bus? Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of questions that we can make on a month by month, day by day, year by year basis that make a big difference. Another thing that that Greg said last week, which I thought was inspiring, was the idea of using material, sharing material, rather than us all owning our own car or two cars. And maybe we rent a car once every time that we need to go somewhere, if we can get most of what we want to get done with public transportation or on foot. Those kinds of things, just thinking outside the box or the old box and getting into the new energy efficient box.